welcome to Maddie's Makings. I've been sort of on a little bit of a Southwest kick, I guess, in the last little while, and I've really fallen in love with these three bead colors together, and I've been playing around. So today we are going to work with some wire and some beads again. A lot of you like my sort of native inspired, and this has a tassel because that's really popular and it's a different shape, which is kind of fun. It reminds me of sort of a sunset. So we're going to learn how to make this today. So what you're going to need is a few things: 26 gauge weaving wire, and then 18 gauge I'm using for the frame, like we did with the dream catcher. You're going to need a tassel. These came with really crappy, this is just a suede tassel, but it came with really crappy caps, so I took the caps off and put my own little wire thing on. I'm not going to show you how to do that today. You can use your own tassel in any way that you want to, whatever way you use. I have a 6mm gemstone, and this just is Mountain Jasper. Just happens to be a white one. And then I have 3 colors of seed beads. So the seed beads are the matte opaque antique beige, and this one here is a Toho, and this is orange semi-glazed. And I just love the color, and it's, I don't know if you can see that, but it has like all these different colors in it. It's kind of cool. And then this is Miyuki, so I'm using all kinds of different brands, breaking all the rules, of course. Picasso, Mountain Matte, it's called. So, and I love this. Again, it has a whole bunch of different colors in it, so it gives a lot of depth to these. You're going to need your basic wired tools that you should have: round nose pliers, flat nose pliers, cutters, and straighteners. I may use wide flat nose pliers as well. These are chain nose. So get all that ready, and you're going to need your form that you used last week. I'm going to use the crazy glue form that I used last week. So get all that ready, and then come back to me, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I'm back, and I started with a 6-inch piece of wire of the 18 gauge, just like I did last time. And we're going to start in a very similar way for the Dreamcatcher as the Dreamcatcher earrings. And if you haven't seen that yet, just check in the little eye on the top corner there, and you can go to that and learn about that. So I'm just wrapping this around. Just wrapping it around. And I'm going to bring them, the idea is just to make a round shape. Okay? Now you are going to need a ruler, and I didn't say that at the beginning, and I'm sorry for that. It's not quite as round. See how it's kind of a little bumpy at the bottom there? So I'm just going to make sure it's good and round. For some reason I didn't get it rounded the way I want it to be. And I'm just squishing my wire and heating it up, and by rubbing on it, making sure it's good and round. I want a nice round shape. There we go. Okay, so these earrings, I'm only using half the circle, but I have to use this other part of the wire to go into the middle. So once you made one, you would use that as the setting for the next one. So I'm going to do that. So I have one made already. So it doesn't matter where you do the first one, where you do the second one does, because they have to match, or be close anyways. So I'm just going to lay the wire on top of the wire. And I'm just trying to get them close. And then I'm going to take my pliers and just grab a hold of where that is on the one side. And then I'm going to take it, make sure my pliers are sort of 90 degrees to there, and I'm going to bend. So the idea is I want to make myself like a little right angle. And I know this wire is not straight, but we can straighten that out. See, that'll straighten out really easily. Okay, now we need to match it all up again. The second earring is always the hardest, so showing you the second earring is always a good thing, because it allows you to sort of say, okay, I know how to make the first one, but then what do I do with the second one? Now you can draw the wire frame if you want to make a bunch of these ones in different colors, in different ways, different patterns of beads on them. Draw it on a piece of paper and then just fit it to the paper. And then you have a sort of a template that you can go by. Okay. So I'm going to put that on. I'm trying to make sure it's matched up pretty close. Put that there. And then I'm bending that over at 90 degrees. So I have this hot mess, right? Okay. So, alright. So I'm going to take my ruler, and from the one point to the other point, if I get it to inches, not centimeters, I'm going to see that I have just over 1.5, but I have to go by the inside diameter of the wire. So I'm going from corner to corner. I'm just over 1.5 inches. So that means 3/4 inch mark is sort of my halfway mark. Okay, so I'm going to come in 3/4 inch, and I'm going to grab my pliers just on the other side of that, and then I'm going to bend straight up. Push against my pliers so that I can make sure I get a nice crisp bend. So I have this lovely bend. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And it worked out so that it's... Now, you can bend whatever part you bend, you need to have your measurement on the other side. So this is the piece that I have. Now let's just double check to see that it's going to be the same as this one. And look at that, it's exactly the same as that one. Happy, and they meet in the middle, and that means that they're both going to meet in the middle, and that's the hardest part of this, is getting them to meet in the middle and to look good. Okay, so now we can get rid of the ruler, because we're pretty well done with that. And now I have to wrap this around this and then make a loop on the top. And because this is heavy enough gauge wire, I don't have to worry about it coming undone if it's just a loop on the top. So, okay, there's a couple ways to do this. You can do it the way that we've done it before, where you just make a single loop and feed it through, or you can just wrap it. So I'm going to undo some of this a little bit. I'm just pulling it across. Now this is where you have to be really careful, because I don't want to shorten one side. Like, I don't want to pull this side in and the other side's really long still. So okay, so I bent it so that they're sort of sitting like this over top of each other to get me started. And if you have a little bit longer wire, it'll be a little bit easier for you to do this. But I'm putting lots of outward pressure while I'm wrapping this so that I don't lose any of this length here. It'll lose a smidge, but just a smidge. I'm going to go around once. And I'm going to go around a second time. There we go. So it's to the back. Right, and I'm going to just take my pliers and true everything up, squinch everything down. There we go. That's better. Okay, so then we just take our wire cutters, if I can find my wire snips, there they are. And I'm just going to cut this off at the back, and then I'm going to wrap it around so that I can tuck that little piece under. Okay. Now, I'm sticking my finger sort of in here while I'm doing this, so that when I'm wrapping it around, sometimes it can suck some wire in, and I don't want it to suck any wire in. So it's a little awkward. But you can do it. I promise. Okay, so that's wrapped around the back. So we have our frame now. Now at this point, if you want, you can hammer it. You can texture it. You can do whatever you'd like to make yourself happy with your frame. Make sure that these two wires at the top are sort of sitting even. So I'm just pushing that one back a little bit to even it out a bit. Okay, and now we just need to make our loop. So this wire here is the one that comes here. So it's on this side. So you have to figure that out. And then you have to take it and bend this wire towards, now you use your pliers, I guess, would be easier. I'm trying to hold this all in nice and tight, and then I'm bending. Yeah, it's not going to work. I have to do it with my thumb. So see how that came loose there, and you have some space, and you don't want that. You want that nice and tight. And then you want to bend this towards that so that you start your loop. And then I need to cut off what I don't need. There we go. So literally I had two pieces like this big that I'm getting rid of out of a 6-inch piece, which is really cool. Now if you want to give yourself a little more grace, go for it. So again, it's the traditional loop that we always make. Make sure that see, that's not tucked up tight, so I have to pop it back up. I'm going to bend this back a little bit to make sure this stays in nice and tight. I don't want this moving it around, which it is doing at the moment. Okay, it's moving a little tiny bit, but it's pretty good. I can live with that. Make sure everything's nice and the way that I want it. So now I have my frame. So I now need to get your beads out. So you need to get your beads and your 26 gauge wire. You're going to need about 5 feet of your 26 gauge wire, maybe a little less. You could probably get away with 4.5 or 4 feet, depending on how many rows of beads and how much wrapping you're going to do. Okay? So get that ready and come right back. Okay, so I have my wire, I have my frame already. I, checked to make sure I was happy with it all. Checked to make sure it was the same as the other one. So one of the problems, and I'm going to show you on this one, if you start to put your wire on down here or even up here, all right, let's do the one, if you start your wire down here, it's going to slip to the middle, slip to the middle, slip to the middle, and it's going to make like loops rather than as you go along, rather than straight across. And I wanted this to go straight across, so I had to create some airspace, but it also gives somewhere for my tassel to hang out. And if you start at the top, as you decrease, it slips down towards the center. So this is the easiest way I found to do this kind of thing. And you can put as much or as little as you want in here, but because I was going to put this huge bead in here that sort of represents the sort of sun, because I was going to put the big bead in there, I wanted more space so that the bead would clear and you wouldn't be banging. See how the bead is right there by it? So I went quite a few wraps. So I started wrapping around the form, and I just coiled around the form. So I'm going to show you how to do that. You can go under or over. It doesn't really matter, whatever you're happy easiest with. So I just grabbed a tail, put it on here, and I make a loop as I come up through here, and then I pull all my wire through. Now it's really long at this point, so this is going to take a little bit of time as you go along. So I'm making a loop and I'm pulling it all the way through. So I'm just sort of catching it with my thumb. Now as you can see, they're pretty widely spaced apart. So I'm going to bring them in together now, so they're a little closer. All right, and I'm going to continue to coil. Now, could I put this on beforehand? Maybe. I could make the coil ahead of time and put it on there. Yeah, you could definitely do that. And if you wanted a different coil that was in a different color, or you could make a coil, and before you bent these angles here, you could slip the coil on first. That would be cool. You could even slip some beads on here first. It just wouldn't allow your tassel to move around if you put beads on there. So, yeah. So you're just going to keep going, and you're going to do this for... Good question. Let's see, where's my ruler? I pulled it away, so now I got to pull it back out again. Okay, so when I look at my ruler, it hits the 1 inch mark. So from one side to the other, so if you look at the whole thing is, at the widest point is 1.5 inches. So when it hits the 1 inch mark, yeah, because you can definitely tell where you are as far as... So coil on the whole bottom, and it's better to start at one side. You can move the coil around a little bit, but you want to keep coiling, keep coiling, keep coiling until you get to the 1 inch mark. Make sure that that's centered, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so as you can see, I've got my coils on here, and I just took my tail and coiled it around, then tucked it down. Couple of things to note. You are going to need to make sure you squish your coil in really good and tight. Make sure it's nice and smooth, because this is going to be the surface that your tassel is going to be hanging in. If you have any gaps or holes in here, your tassel is going to get stopped there. So if your hole's over here, your tassel is always going to be hanging to the one side or the other. I like the movement of it being able to slide back and forth, especially if it's on your ears. I think it's kind of cool. But if you don't want that, as I said, you can put beads along the bottom here. Instead, it would be, before you bent it, put a bunch of beads on, then make your bend. And then you need to put an even number of beads so that it can sit in the middle of all of the beads. All right. So we're going to go from there. So now we're ready to start with the beading portion of it. So I'm going to grab my beads, I'm going to pull them out. I'm just going to put them just into the screen here. Okay, so this first row, I'm just going to use the cream with the big bead because it's sort of setting the horizon up, right? So I've got my wire coming over. It doesn't really matter whether your wire is coming over or under. Sorry about hitting my camera there with my wire. I still have a fairly good length of tail, so you know you are gonna move things and smack things around. So I'm just gonna take the end of it here, and I'm just gonna estimate how many beads I need. Now, depending on the form that you used and the size that you used to form, it'll depend on how big your earrings are, but it'll also depend on how many you need. So I can't give you exact formula. These are very similar to the beaded wire earrings native, except for this one's going to be more southwest style. So I'm going to come across here, and I'm just letting my beads drop down on here, and going, if I put that in there, and then I put the one in the center, it looks like it could be pretty centered. So I'm going to just check it out. Again, it's one of those you have to sort of check as you go, for the most part. So if I put that there, does that feel like that's in the center? Yes, it feels like it's in the center to me. I think I'm going to be okay with that. So I can actually even count these beads now at this point and put the same amount on the other side. I don't know, I think I put 6 or 7. So I'm grabbing 7. I bring them down, and as you can see, everything moves around because I'm bringing the beads down on my wire, and it makes everything move. So you want it to lay right next to this coil on this side. See how it looks? Make sure it's straight, that it can be straightened out. So I'm just straightening out the wire itself, and you don't want your beads to go over the wire like this, like that. You don't want them to be too many. You want them just to sit inside, but you don't also want them to be a gap like this, because then the whole thing will slide around. See? So you need to make sure that you have the right amount of beads on here. Alright? And then I'm going to hold on right where the beads end and the wire is, and I'm going to stick it up through the middle, like we've been doing all along. And I'm going to grab it with my other hand, and I'm going to pull, trying to get a kink in there, and then I'm going to take it and pull tightly outward, like that, with my thumb, to coil it around, and then that secures those beads in there. Double check, make sure you're happy with everything. I'm good with everything. So I'm going to make 3 more wraps. There's 1. And I'm not even worrying if they're really close together, because I can tighten them up. And I'm trying not to hit my camera with the wire. 2. Oh, sorry guys. 3. And I'm going to push in. So now they're nice and tight. Now, this first row that I put on, I don't know if you can see in this one, it sort of lays behind the sun somewhat, and I'm okay with that. So that's enough space for me to do my next row of beads. So my next row of beads, I need a little bit of those, but then I need to move on to my second color of beads, because I'm sort of trying to make it look like a little bit of a, I don't know, Nevada sunset-y, desert-y, thingy-majiggy, I don't know how to explain it. But it's the colors that make it that. So now I'm just going to put a couple of white beads, because horizons tend to go up on the outside, and I don't know why that is. So just a couple, I'll put maybe 3. And then the rest of them I'm going to fill in the middle. Okay, so I'm back. You've probably seen in the fast forward that I put too many of the coral on, colored ones, and then I took off the 3 that I needed, so I had 3 on the other side. You don't have to make this symmetrical. It's a sunset. You can do it any way you want. Now this time I want to make sure I have enough wire so that it can rest just behind that. See how that's just resting, just not quite behind the same level. I want it to be, you know, at the flat level, but I'm not like bending it completely around my bead. I just want it to smoothly move around my bead, so when you look at it from the front, it's good. So now I'm coming from underneath, so I got to hold, I'm going to tuck down, There we go. And then I'm going to pull through, and then I'm going to cinch down tight. Okay, so this is the process. I'm going to do this on fast mode for you guys so you don't have such a long video. But basically what I'm doing is going back and forth, and I'm wrapping like 4 times and then going back and forth, you know, putting the beads on back and forth. And when I get all my beads on, I'll come back and we'll go from there. Okay, so I'm on the last row. I'm just going to need a few more beads, and I'm going to fill this whole last row up with these beads. And I have a fair amount of wire left off, but I actually cut myself more wire than I needed, than I said to you to cut. I cut about 6 feet. It's my bad habit. So yeah, definitely about 4.5 feet. It's more than enough, and you're just going to put the seed beads on. And for those of you who need to know numbers, I did a quick count as I was doing it. So I started the second row here with I did 3 on this one, and then I just did 1, and then I did 3, and then I did 6, and then I did 9, and then I did 14 on either side here for my spacing. So just so you know, and then I have 5 beads in the middle on this last row. So you know, that's how many beads are going across. If you want to do the math and figure that all out. So I'm just getting ready for this last row. I should probably put these beads on before I came back, but that's okay. We're almost done. We're in the home stretch. So if you like these videos, please like, share, and subscribe. Especially subscribe. It's really important to keep me making these videos. Please make comments. Let me know what you like. Even what you'd like to maybe see more of. Yeah, that would be awesome. So I'm just trying to get all the way across, and looks like I've got enough to get myself across, so I'm good. I probably have to pull off a bead or 2. Okay, so there's my last row of beads in there. Looks like I had 1 bead too many, so I'm just going to pull that one off my wire. Okay, so this gets a little tricky. Actually, 2 beads too many. Just double check. Yeah. Okay, so you know, if you have too many, what happens is it buckles. It does this weird buckly thing. I just want to push this down to make sure. Yeah, I'm good. It'll buckle up. It'll do like this. It'll buckle like this. If you're trying to put on too many beads, you get this weird little buckly thing going on. You want it to be able to lay flat. So I put my fingers over top of it to make sure it's laying flat with everything else. Okay, so this one, it's a little harder. Take the end of your, because it'll want to slip over the edge here, so just take your end of your wire. By this point you should have a shorter piece left. See, I have more than a foot left, so that's what I'm saying. And I'm just making sure this is nice and curved around. So I stuck my finger in there. Now I got to make sure this bead is up there. So this is one of the harder parts, is making sure that this lays where you want it. So now I'm going to take it, and I got a hold of it. Remember how I showed you to pull really tight? I want to pull really tight, and I'm going to push down just a little bit, even though it's not going to stay there, so I can make some space for me to do a couple of wraps. So I need to do a few wraps here to finish it off. 2, tuck it down, probably 1 more. You don't need to do all 4 because I'm not putting on another row. Yeah, so you could have fun with this. You could now take this wire and I could put beads all the way around the outside. Your imagination is the only thing, you know, as I say all the time, limits you to what you can do, and there's so many things you can do. So I'm just going to cut this off just before the edge here so that I can tuck it up and around. So yeah, I have about 2 feet of wire left off, and I cut 6, so 4 feet probably would have done it for my size, for my tube. Okay, so now you have this kind of, and usually it's, I keep it neat as I go, but most people don't. So now you're going to take it and you're going to go and squish on the sides. There's groupings of 4 wires together. I don't know if you can see this. I'm just taking it along the sides and squishing them all together, making them pretty. Making sure that they're not going up over the edge. Making those 4. There we go. See how they look a lot nicer now that they've been squished together. Now, this is the front because it loops around to here, and this is where the back side tucks in. So this is the front of my earring, and I know this is the front of my earring. So you have a couple choices. What I like to do, because this is up and down, and you can see that the weave doesn't lay perfectly flat, I could have cut off my wire and done each one separately, doing a couple of wraps to start, and yeah, that's up to you. So I make sure that this bead's centered, tuck this in behind, and I'm taking from the back and I'm pushing up on the edges. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, but I'm pushing up on the edges here to bring all my beads to the front. And it tightens the bead rows, for one. Okay, and I'm going to space these out a little bit, the way I like them. And it pushes this bead down a little bit. So then I have to take this last row, push this bead up, take this last row and tuck it down underneath just a little bit, and make that all nice and happy. So this is, oops. So you have 2 that are pretty well the same. So the other thing you can do is you can push it the other way. So you can push it all backwards, so it sort of scoops in, the scenery scoops in away from the, see how it's bowing out to the back now? So you have that ability to do that. And because I use 1 continuous wire, I don't have to worry about these ends unwrapping at all, if they're not going to unwrap while I'm doing this. So your choice of how you like it, whether you like it puffed out or puffed in, or if you want to put them on individually. But I can get them pretty straight. You know, it just means keeping your wire straight. And if you're noticing that one doesn't look straight, just sort of run a fingernail or an awl or something sort of along the beads and try to straighten the wire a little bit and make it happy. The other thing is that you can push down and push them together, and that'll sort of make them a little happier. See how they get happier when I play with them a little bit? See how there's a little space here? Now, people handling them, if they're wearing them, are going to, you know, mess up the spacing. So it's not going to stay perfect. Okay? So, tassel. Tassel's pretty simple. I might show you in the future, but basically I just took a piece of wire. This is a strip of micro suede, and it was just rolled on itself nice and tight. I held it nice and tight. You could glue it in that position, glue it closed, and then just, you know, put a clothespin on it and let it dry. Once it's dried, then I just took the wire and I left the tail hanging up here, and then I racked it around and around and around and around, nice and tight till I got to this point. When I got to this point, I just bent the wire up, okay, and then I brought it around, and you can see that there's an open end here. This end here, I can stick my nail under. See, it's open. But it doesn't really matter because it's this is the 18 gauge wire, so I know I'm not worried about it. So I'm going to open it just like a jump ring. See, I'm just opening it just like a jump ring. And I'm going to stick it in over the bottom here. And again, I know which way is my front because I puffed all my beads to the front. And then I'm just going to close it up just like a jump ring. And I'm going to tuck it in just a little bit so I know I'm not worried about it getting caught on anything. So I can see that it's hitting my bead. See how it's hitting my bead? So my bead needs to come up a little bit. So just pull that wire forward a little bit. And now it moves around. See how it dangles around? Let me just pull back out again. Don't need to be this close. There we go. Okay, so now it dangles around. So I have the 2. Now the only thing I didn't tell you needed was a pair of ear hooks. You can make them yourself, or you can purchase them. And it's just a simple, this is just a simple ear hook. And put it on so it's facing the round side of the ear hook, and the opening, depending on which way it opens, is facing the front. So the front's facing where you want it to. Make sure that's good and closed. And now I have a pair of Southwest style earrings. I can get them both in my hands. But that's what they look like, and they're really awesome. I like them. I think they're really cool. I think they're fun. They're, just so you know, so you can sort of see the size, they're 1.5 inches wide. And with the tassel, which is a total from the very top of the tassel, is 1.5 inches long. So the whole thing is 2.5 inches long total. So it's not like, you know, really big. You could make these tassels longer. You could make them out of beads. You could get a bead cap and just make all these beads into these long, wonderful beaded tassel. So you could pick whatever you like. I hope this gives you some ideas and starts you thinking about different shapes that you can use. And again, please like, share, and subscribe, and keep on making from Mandy's Makings, and have a great day. It's a little special extra for some of you guys. So this is what I've been playing with those 3-color beads, and I made some brick stitch earrings. I just wanted to show you some of the other things I've been up to, and I made this wonderful ring that goes on this finger. So you can see that it's with a peyote band. So this is a fun little thing, and it all sort of goes together. All the colors go together. This is another pair of earrings, obviously. This could be made bigger into a pendant, just so you know. You could make a bigger one and make it, you know, a lot more variation in the thing, and do a few tassels hanging from it and have a pendant. If you hung on this long, you deserve a little extra. Take care. Bye-bye.